Emma Mitchell, a shy 15-year-old science enthusiast, lives a quiet but stressful life at Sunrise High School. Emma has long been accustomed to being forgotten in a crowd, or worse, being the target of cruel taunts. But as her senior year approaches, the much-anticipated prom approaches, Emma's life becomes more oppressive than ever. Jessica Carter, the cheerleader and leader of the popular group of friends in school, seems to find it fun to humiliate Emma. One day, as Emma quietly opens her locker to prepare for her next class, Jessica and her friends walk in, their eyes shining as if they have found a new target. "Oh, look! There's our little bookworm," Jessica said, her voice both sweet and sarcastic. "Emma, have you found anyone to prom with? Or are you planning on bringing your biology book as your prom date?" Laughter erupted from Jessica's group, making Emma feel her face flush with embarrassment. She tried to ignore it, quickly gathering her things, but Jessica wouldn't let go. "Wait," she continued, her voice fake sweet. "Maybe you should borrow the microscope from the lab, since it's the only thing that hasn't refused to dance with you." The laughter rang out again, louder this time. Emma felt as if the entire hallway was spinning around her, all eyes on her, assessing and judging. Unable to bear it any longer, Emma pushed past the crowd and ran into the bathroom, where she collapsed in a stall, tears streaming down her cheeks. It wasn't the first time Emma had been bullied, but this time it was worse. Maybe it was because prom was a dream she'd been waiting for all along, a night where everyone could shine and be themselves. But now, Emma didn't see any reason to show up. Just thinking about Jessica's mocking eyes and the laughter of her friends was enough to make Emma want to crawl into a corner and disappear. When Emma returned home that evening, she tried to hide her sadness from her parents, James and Grace Mitchell. But the people who loved her most were not so easily fooled. Grace noticed her daughter's red eyes as she sat down at the dinner table, while James noticed that Emma had not said a word during the meal. "Are you okay, Emma?" her mother asked gently. Emma just shook her head, forcing a smile. But as her mother continued to ask, she finally spilled the beans. Emma told her about the bullying, about Jessica's taunts, and about not going to prom. James, furious at the injustice his daughter had suffered, suggested that he go to school and talk to the teacher. But Emma immediately objected. "No, Dad. If you do that, they will hate me even more. I will be a laughingstock forever." Grace took Emma's hand, looking at her with gentle eyes. "But you can't let them take away your joy. Prom is a part of youth, a moment that you deserve to enjoy." Emma just bowed her head, not saying anything more. In her heart, the fear and inferiority complex were so deeply ingrained that it could not be easily shaken. The only person who could understand Emma was Lily, her best friend since elementary school. When she heard Emma say she wasn't going to prom, Lily immediately called her friend, trying to convince her. "Emma, you can't let Jessica and her friends control your life. Remember? You were so excited when you found the perfect dress. You can't give up like that." But Emma just sighed. "You don't understand, Lily. You've never been their target. You've never felt like everyone's eyes were out to mock you." Lily was silent for a moment, but her determination did not wane. "Emma, if you don't stand up for yourself, you will forever live in their shadow. I will help you." But even Lily's encouragement wasn't enough to move Emma. She locked herself in her small room where she felt safest, trying to forget the prom dream that had once excited her. However, just when all hope seemed lost, an idea suddenly appeared. Lily, at dinner at Emma's house, mentioned her idol, Michael Ray, the famous basketball player Emma had always admired. She always said that Michael Ray was the biggest inspiration in her life. If anyone could help Emma regain her confidence, it would be him. That seemingly crazy idea turns into a plan that the Mitchell family and Lily embark on. And as prom approaches, a surprise awaits Emma, an event that will change her life forever. That evening, in the Mitchell family's cozy little kitchen, The usually light and cheerful atmosphere was now shrouded in an unusual silence. The table was simply set with a plate of pasta that Emma's mother, Grace, had painstakingly made, her favorite dish. But today, even the delicious aroma could not make Emma smile. Emma bowed her head, stirring her food with her fork, her eyes staring blankly into space. Her mind was still reeling from Jessica's sarcastic laughter and malicious taunts playing in her head like a tape on repeat. She just wanted to disappear from this world, at least for a while. Grace, sitting across from her, glanced at her daughter. Her maternal instincts told her that something was wrong. Her eyes fell on Emma's small, tired shoulders, and she couldn't bear the silence any longer. "Are you okay, Emma?" Grace asked, her voice gentle, but filled with worry. Emma looked up startled. For a moment, she wanted to lie and say she was fine, but the genuine concern in her mother's eyes made it impossible to hide it. She took a deep breath, her voice almost a whisper. "I don't think I'm going to prom." That simple sentence was like a thunderbolt to Grace's ears. She knew Emma had been looking forward to this event for a long time. They had picked out the perfect prom dress together, and Emma had said with shining eyes that this would be the most memorable moment of her life. "What happened, honey?" Grace asked, her voice filled with concern as she gently placed her hand on Emma's. Emma was silent for a moment, confusion, uncertainty, and pain swirling inside her. Finally, she decided to tell the story. "Today, Jessica and her group of friends made fun of me," Emma began, her voice shaking. "She told me I should go to prom with a microscope because it was the only thing that wouldn't reject me." James, Emma's father, sat at the head of the table and slammed his fork down on the table, his eyes blazing with anger. "Unbelievable!" he almost shouted. "How could those kids do this to you? We need to talk to the teacher immediately." Emma jerked her head up, alarmed. "No, Dad," she said, her voice cracking with fear. "If you do that, it will only get worse. They'll bully me more. I'll be the laughing stock of the whole school." James wanted to protest, but Grace's worried look made him hold back. He knew that Emma feared this more than anything. Grace held Emma's hand tightly, her voice soft but firm. "You can't let them take away your joy, Emma. Prom isn't just for Jessica or anyone else. Prom is for everyone, especially you." But those words did nothing to ease the unease that gripped Emma's heart. She pulled her hand away, her eyes filled with shock and pain. "It's not worth it, Mom." She shook her head, her voice fading. "I don't want to endure any more of those mocking looks or taunts." Grace felt her heart constrict as she looked at her daughter. She wanted to do something, anything, to make Emma smile again. But the fear in her eyes was so obvious, like an invisible wall blocking any words of encouragement. James, still angry, suddenly jumped up and paced around the small kitchen. He had never felt so helpless. As a father, he always wanted to protect his daughter from any harm. But this time, he realized that the problem could not be solved by simply criticizing or warning Jessica and her group of friends. "Emma," he said, trying to keep his voice calm, "I don't want you to live in fear. You deserve to live a happy, fulfilling life. There's something we can do to stop them." "No, Dad," Emma said, her voice shaking. "If you do anything, they'll just hate me more. I don't want to be the weak one who needs you to protect me. I can't." The words trailed off, and Emma ducked her head, panic overwhelming her. She didn't want to imagine what Jessica would say if she knew she'd gone home crying to her parents. Grace turned to James, her eyes pleading for restraint. She gently placed a hand on his shoulder, reminding him that this was a time for Emma to need understanding, not pressure. Turning back to her daughter, she said, "Emma, I understand that you feel helpless, but I believe you are stronger than you think. If you need time, I will respect that. But never let anyone make you forget your own worth." Emma just nodded slightly, not saying anything more. She stood up, trying to hide the tears that had begun to fall. "I'm full. I'm going to my room." When Emma left, the kitchen fell silent. Grace and James looked at each other, both feeling the worry and uncertainty weighing on their hearts. James sighed. "We can't let things go on like this. She's slowly isolating herself." "I know," Grace whispered, her eyes heavy. "But I think we need a different approach. What Emma needs isn't just protection, but a reason to feel strong enough to face anything." Meanwhile, upstairs, Emma sat in her small room, silently staring at the prom dress hanging on the rack. Her eyes were filled with tears, but inside, she didn't feel brave, only a growing fear, like an unstoppable storm. That night, as the lights in the house went out, a surprising plan began to form in Grace's mind. Little did Emma know that what was about to happen would completely change her life. The next morning, the warm sunlight streamed through the windows of Sunrise High. Groups of students were bustling about, talking about the upcoming prom, but Emma walked through the hallways with a distracted look on her face, as if trying to avoid it all. She knew that Jessica and her friends would show up at any moment to continue their teasing. It made Emma's steps heavier. In her hand, her phone vibrated. It was Lily, the one friend Emma had ever felt she could trust. But today, she wasn't sure she wanted to answer. Her mind was still reeling from the decision to skip prom, an event she should have been excited about, but now she was just dreading. Finally, Emma sent a short text. "I'm not going to prom." Lily received the message while sitting in class and immediately knew something was wrong. Lily knew Emma better than anyone. She knew her friend had been through a lot, but she also knew that underneath that quiet person was a strong heart that just needed a reason to shine. And Lily decided that she would be the one to awaken that light. During lunch break, Lily found Emma and pulled her out of the crowded classroom to a quiet corner of the yard under the shade of a tree. Emma looked down at the ground, trying to avoid Lily's eyes, but Lily didn't give up so easily. "Emma, you can't let Jessica and her friends win," Lily began, her voice strong but caring. "Remember? You were so excited when you found the perfect dress. You said it was going to be one of the most memorable moments of your life. Why would you give up your dream just because of them?" Emma kept her head down, her hands clasped together. "You don't understand, Lily," she said, her voice shaking. "Every time I walk into this school, I just want to disappear. I don't want to be the target of their jokes anymore." Lily sighed softly, her eyes shining with determination. She stepped closer, placing her hands on Emma's shoulders, forcing her to look up at her. "Emma, I know how you feel," Lily said, her voice softer, but no less firm. "I know you've been through a lot. But listen to me. You don't have to live in fear forever. You're stronger than you think." Emma looked into Lily's sincere eyes, feeling her heart soften. But the fear still weighed heavily. "But if I go, what will happen? Jessica will find a way to humiliate me in front of everyone." "And if you don't go," Lily said, her voice full of passion, "you'll let them control your life forever. Who is Jessica really to decide whether you're happy or not? You've spent the past year looking forward to prom, and you deserve to enjoy it, Emma. They don't have the right to take that away from you." Lily's words, like a light in the darkness inside Emma, made her start thinking. But the uneasiness still didn't go away completely. Emma tried to smile, but it was a weak smile. "You're always so optimistic, Lily," Emma said. "But sometimes I wish it were easier." Lily gripped Emma's shoulder tighter, as if to pour all her faith into her friend. "Listen, Emma, I believe in you. I believe you can do this. If you want me to, I'll go with you. I'll always be by your side. We've got everything set up. Your dress, your shoes. They're all waiting to shine. But most of all, you're the one who needs to shine." Emma felt something strange inside her, a small glimmer of hope. She wasn't sure if she was ready to face Jessica, but Lily's enthusiasm and confidence had left an impression. Emma didn't say anything more, just nodded before they both headed back to school. Even though she didn't make any promises, Emma knew that Lily's words had planted a seed in her. And Lily, with her optimism and passion, also knew that she wouldn't let Emma give up. Whatever it took, Lily would make sure her best friend understood her self-worth and regained her lost confidence. That day, when the final bell rang, Emma left school feeling a little lighter. For the first time in days, she felt like she wasn't completely alone, and a small part of her began to hope that maybe, just maybe, prom could still be a night to remember. That evening, in the cozy kitchen of the Mitchell household, the atmosphere was lighter after a long day. Grace had just finished serving steaming hot lasagna, a family favorite. Lily, an integral part of the family, sat with Emma, Grace, and James, enjoying dinner as usual. While Emma remained silent, stirring her food with her fork without saying much, Lily couldn't keep quiet. She was always the one to spread positive energy in any situation, and today was no exception. "You know," Lily said, her voice full of excitement, "Emma is Michael Ray's biggest fan. She never misses a game of his, whether it's on TV or online." Emma immediately raised her head, her eyes filled with surprise. "Lily, don't!" She blushed, hesitantly trying to stop her friend from continuing, but Lily interrupted with a mischievous smile. "That's right. You always said Michael Ray was your biggest inspiration, Emma. You even had his picture hanging in your room, remember?" Lily said, her voice full of pride as if she admired him too. James, Emma's father, stopped holding his glass of water and asked curiously, "Michael Ray? You mean that famous basketball player? The one who was awarded for his charitable contributions?" "That's right. He was not only an amazing athlete, but also a wonderful person. He inspired so many people with his perseverance, determination, and kindness," Lily continued, her voice growing more animated. Grace, who was serving James another serving of lasagna, smiled, looking at Emma. "So Michael Ray is that special to you?" Emma just nodded slightly, her eyes looking down at her plate of food, but couldn't hide the small smile that appeared on her lips. "He's really good and always supports people in need. He's like a hero." James and Grace exchanged glances, as if they had both come up with a bold idea. James, with a half-joking smile, said, "Perhaps we should try contacting Michael Ray. Who knows, maybe he'll agree to help Emma regain her confidence." "Dad!" Emma exclaimed, her voice a mixture of shock and confusion. "Don't say that. Michael Ray is a busy man. Why would he care about me?" But Lily, still enthusiastic, turned to James with a bright look in her eyes. "You're right. If anyone can make Emma believe in herself again, it's Michael Ray." Grace, though sympathetic, remained cautious. "But how can we get such a big star to notice us? We don't know anyone in his circle." "I don't know," Lily admitted, but her eyes still held a hopeful light. "But I believe that if we are sincere and patient enough, miracles can happen. Michael Ray always supports those in need." James nodded in agreement, determination evident in his voice. "Yes, we could start with the charity events he attends. He often shows up at places like that to encourage people. If we get a chance to tell Emma's story, maybe he'll agree to help." Emma sat there, looking at her parents and Lily with a mixture of confusion and emotion. Although she found it hard to believe that someone like Michael Ray would care about her little story, their interest and trust had sparked a small glimmer of hope in her heart. "I don't think so," Emma said softly, but her voice was soft, no longer full of protest. "He's a very big man, and I'm nothing." Grace gently placed her hand on Emma's shoulder, smiling warmly. "Emma, you are not nothing. You are special, and anyone who knows your story will see that. Sometimes, if you just believe, miracles happen." The kitchen suddenly became more lively, with Lily's laughter and plans slowly forming in James's mind. Emma said nothing more, but deep down, she felt reassured that she had loved ones standing by her side. The dinner ended on a high note, full of excitement and anticipation. That night, as Emma returned to her room, she looked up at the picture of Michael Ray on the wall and smiled. Though she didn't dare to put her faith in him completely, somewhere deep down she knew that the support of her family and friends would be the source of strength to help her overcome whatever lay ahead. At a large convention center in the city, the excitement of a charity event filled the air. Bright lights shone down on the stage, where speakers and celebrities took turns sharing the importance of supporting the community and overcoming adversity. James Mitchell stood in a corner, his eyes fixed on the door leading to the VIP area. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest. James was not a nervous man, but this was different. He knew that this was his only chance to get close to Michael Ray, the famous basketball player, and the man his daughter, Emma, considered her greatest inspiration. James had thought long and hard before deciding to come here. He wasn't sure if a star like Michael Ray would be interested in his family's story, but Emma's hopeful eyes and Lily's determination kept coming back to him. No matter how small the chance, I have to try, he told himself, clutching the sheet of paper with his family's contact information in his hand. When Michael Ray appeared, the atmosphere in the hall was almost explosive. Everyone stood up and applauded him. Michael, with a confident demeanor and a bright smile, stepped onto the stage to speak about the values of unity and humanity. James stood at a distance, listening to his every word, and was impressed. After his speech, Michael Ray left the stage and moved to the sidelines to chat with the audience. This was the moment James had been waiting for. He took a deep breath, tried to calm himself, and stepped closer. "Mr. Ray, sorry to bother you, but I have something to share," James said, his voice trembling slightly. Michael Ray turned back, his eyes friendly on James, nodding to indicate he could continue. James wasted no time. He told Emma's story, about a shy 15-year-old girl who loved science but was bullied and had lost confidence. James told how Emma looked up to Michael Ray, looking up to him as an inspiration during her toughest times. His voice cracked a little as he talked about the pain of seeing his daughter skip prom because of the taunts of her friends. "Ray, I have nothing to offer in return," James said, his eyes shining with sincerity. "But I beg you to help my daughter. She needs someone like you to inspire her, to remind her that she deserves better." Michael Ray was silent for a moment, his eyes shining with sympathy. He put his hand on James's shoulder, as if to reassure him. "Your story touches my heart," Michael said, his voice soft. "I was in a similar situation when I was a child, doubted, ridiculed. But I got through it, thanks to people who believed in me. If there's anything I can do to help Emma, I will." James felt as if the world had lit up. "You'll really help?" he asked, his voice barely containing the emotion. Michael nodded, smiling confidently. "I will. Send me your family's information. I will be there on prom night. We will make this a memory Emma will never forget." James could hardly believe his ears. He quickly handed the paper with the contact information to Michael, his heart filled with joy and hope. "Thank you. Thank you so much. You have no idea how much this means to my family." Michael just smiled, his eyes shining with faith and determination. Sometimes, just a little help at the right time can change a life. "I'm happy to help." James left the event with a pounding heart. He had an image of his daughter Emma in his mind, who he believed would soon regain her smile and confidence. He couldn't wait to tell Grace and Lily about this story, so they could share in the joy. That night, when James returned home, he walked into the living room where Grace and Lily were sitting and talking. He recounted the whole encounter with Michael Ray, not forgetting to emphasize that he would be there for the prom. Grace hugged him tightly, and Lily almost screamed with excitement. Emma, from her upstairs bedroom, heard cheering coming from downstairs. She didn't know what was going on, but for the first time in days, she felt something different inside her, like a tiny spark of light in the darkness. Something special was about to happen, and she could feel it. On prom night, Emma's house was strangely quiet. While the whole town was bustling with gorgeous dresses and bright lights aimed at the Sunrise High auditorium, Emma lay quietly in her room, wearing soft pajamas, curled up on her bed. She had convinced herself that she didn't need prom. "I'm safe here," she thought, her eyes following the glint of her prom dress still hanging in the corner. Still, part of her couldn't shake the sadness that crept in, the feeling that she was missing out on something important. Suddenly the doorbell rang. Emma paid it no attention, thinking it was probably a neighbor dropping by. But a few seconds later, Grace's voice called from downstairs, full of encouragement. "Emma, come down. Someone wants to see you." Emma frowned, feeling a little curious and embarrassed. Who would come to see her at this hour? She dragged her feet, reluctantly walking down the stairs. Halfway up, she suddenly stopped. Standing in front of her house was none other than Michael Ray, her idol. He was wearing a smart suit, a bright smile, and warm eyes. Emma gasped, almost in disbelief. She stammered, "You're Michael Ray? Really?" Michael smiled, took a step forward, tilted his head as if to make sure she recognized him. "It's me, Michael Ray, in the flesh. And I thought you'd need company tonight, wouldn't you?" Emma stood still, her heart stopping for a few seconds. A mixture of shock and joy overwhelmed her, overwhelming her thoughts. She looked at Grace and James, her mother with her gentle eyes, and her father with his proud smile. They were all watching her, cheering her on with their eyes full of faith. "Daughter, we know you deserve a special night, and Michael has agreed to do this for you," James said, his voice warm but not without emotion. Emma felt like crying, not out of sadness but out of gratitude for what everyone had done for her. She turned back to Michael, still a little hesitant. "But I don't know if I can do it. I don't think I'm brave enough to face them." Michael stepped forward, crouching down to eye level with her. "Emma, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Just be yourself, because that's awesome. And if you're nervous, I'm right here, by your side." Those words seemed to break through all the barriers in Emma's mind. She took a deep breath, looking into Michael's sincere eyes and her parents' hopeful eyes. Finally, she nodded, a small but confident smile appearing on her lips. "Okay, I'll go," Grace exclaimed excitedly. "That's great, baby girl. We'll get you ready in no time." Less than an hour later, Emma emerged from her bedroom, completely transformed. Her elegant black prom dress hugged her body, and Grace had her hair pulled back in a loose bun, highlighting her delicate face. But what really made Emma shine was the confidence that was slowly returning to her eyes. Michael, waiting downstairs, clapped his hands when he saw her come down. "Wonderful. I told you, you don't need anything but yourself." James and Grace looked at their daughter with tears in their eyes. This was the Emma they knew, the shy little girl now ready to embark on the most special night of her life. "Thank you," Emma said softly, her voice filled with gratitude as she looked at Michael. "I couldn't have done this without you." Michael smiled. "No, Emma. This is all because of you. You found your courage. I'm just here to remind you of that." And so they walked out the door, hand in hand. Prom night was no longer a fear, but an opportunity for Emma to prove to herself that she could overcome anything, as long as she dared to believe in herself. As Michael Ray and Emma walked through the grand doors of the ballroom, the atmosphere at the prom changed. All eyes were on them, surprise written all over their faces. The lively conversations from earlier suddenly stopped, replaced by an eerie silence. Jessica and her group of friends stood in the corner of the room, their eyes filled with shock. Jessica gasped slightly, her hands gripping her juice glass, as if she couldn't believe her eyes. How could Emma, the girl she always mocked, appear together with Michael Ray, the famous basketball star? But Emma was no longer the shy girl she had been yesterday. She walked confidently, her hand gently slung over Michael's. Her eyes sparkled, not because of the bright lights of the hall, but because her confidence had returned. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she deserved to be here. Jessica looked at Emma, trying to form a sarcastic smile, but she couldn't say anything. Emma met Jessica's eyes, but instead of the familiar feeling of fear, she just smiled softly. It wasn't a smile of defiance or victory, but the smile of someone who had found peace in her soul. The hall slowly became lively again as people whispered about Michael Ray's sudden appearance. A few curious classmates approached Emma, greeting her and complimenting her. No one remembered the mocking words Jessica had said about her. Instead, they saw a different Emma, strong and confident. Michael Ray smiled, letting Emma take center stage. He didn't overshadow her, but stood by her side, a silent companion who supported her. He knew that this moment was Emma's, and she deserved to enjoy every second. The evening passed with laughter and pure joy. Emma danced, talked, and for the first time felt like she belonged. She realized that her classmates were not as intimidating as she had thought. Some were even friendly, welcoming her into their conversations. As the night drew to a close, Michael Ray pulled Emma to a quiet corner, where soft light poured down from the lanterns hanging overhead. He placed his hand on her shoulder, his eyes warm and sincere. "Emma, I want you to remember something," Michael said, his voice low and firm. "The confidence you have tonight doesn't come from me or anyone else. It comes from you. I'm just here to help you see it. Never forget that you deserve to shine, no matter what anyone says." Emma's words struck a chord in her heart. She looked at him, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. "Thank you," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't know how to express my gratitude. You've changed my life." Michael just smiled, gently wiping away the tears on Emma's cheeks. "Be true to yourself, Emma, and always believe that you are strong enough to face any difficulty." As Michael left, Emma stood there, watching him disappear. She felt a warm and hopeful feeling inside. That night, Emma realized that life was not always easy, but she had the strength to face any challenge. Even though Jessica and her group of friends may not have changed, Emma knows that it doesn't matter anymore. She doesn't need their validation because she has found her own worth. Emma returned to the dance floor, a smile on her face. Although prom was coming to an end, for her, this was just the beginning of a new journey, where she was ready to embrace every opportunity and challenge with confidence and courage. And in the soft light of that evening, Emma shone, not only in the eyes of her friends, but most importantly, in her own eyes.